You, where your journey begins. You and your story join a community of stories. History, traditions, guiding innovation through on-site learning, online collaboration. You learn from those around you. You teach those who inspire you. Together you grow into something more than you expected. From a solid foundation, you build a future. For today, for tomorrow, for life.
I have the pleasure to share with you kind of the heart of the work that my colleagues and I have been doing for now the last 20 years in thinking about change. But I thought as a way to get into it, I would start with a little math problem, since I come from a school of education, So here's the problem. If 14 frogs sat on a log and 3 of them decided to jump into the water, how many frogs would be left on the log? Now, I know a big part of you wants to say 11 is the answer to that question, but I want to suggest to you that 14 might be a better answer, because there's a big difference between deciding to and actually doing it. And I think that is pretty much kind of what this whole talk is about. Kind of this mysterious kind of space between our actual intentions and what we are actually able to bring about. If at the beginning of the book, Immunity to Change, we quote this study from the health sector where we've ended up doing quite a lot of work, and it's a study that has now been replicated a few times and has a lot of different versions to it, but the one that we mention in the book is that if heart doctors tell their seriously at-risk heart patients that they are likely to literally die if they don't change their ways of living around diet, exercise, smoking, and the like, it still turns out that only 1 in 7 patients can actually make the changes. And I think this is just worth, pausing on for a moment, because I think we can be pretty sure that the other 6 people have just as great a desire, to keep on living and watch their kids or their grandchildren grow up or whatever, floats their boat. And if we cannot make the changes that we would want to make to literally keep ourselves alive, then, what does this say about all the other changes which we may even urgently feel, but which are not life and death matters? What it says to me is that we are in deep need of some new ways of thinking about what gets in the way between our genuine intentions and what we're actually able to bring about. And that question is the one that my colleagues and I have been researching now for quite some time. And we think we've actually, not solved it. The century's just getting started. But we do think that we have sort of happened upon some little piece or clue of this mystery, and essentially it's kind of my purpose to try to share that with you tonight, and then make a little space for us to have a chance to talk back and forth about it. If you interview a person when they come out of the doctor's office who's been prescribed one of these maintenance medications, and you ask them why the doctor prescribed this, you get a pretty high rate of understanding. And then you ask them, if I come back in a year to see if you're taking it, because it's prescribed that you should take it, for the rest of your life. So if I come back in a year to see if you're taking it, what do you think is the probability that you'll be taking it? And they look at you like you're nuts. They say, well, the doctor said to me I could have a stroke and die if I don't take it, that it has no negative side effects, and that it's covered by my insurance. So, I'd say about 100% is the likelihood. Why wouldn't I just take it, brush my teeth or whatever I do at night? I'll pop one of these pills. Why wouldn't I? But then when you do come back a year later, 53 to 57% of the people in a number of studies now are not taking the drug. This is the most common reason for the people in our study why you're not being adherent, if you want to be. I don't know. That was the most common reason. The second most common was things like, well, something comes up, or I get busy, or something like that. We've come to learn that these non-reason reasons are evidence usually that the person is captive of this thing that we're calling the immunity to change. So let me show you, an X-ray from one of the guys in this study, and, what was his map? So his improvement goal was pretty much the same as every person in the study, to take the medications every day as prescribed and refill them on a timely basis. Then he had to tell himself, all the things that he's doing and not doing instead. And he said, I don't take them regularly. I stop for long periods or stop entirely. I don't refill them promptly when they run out. And when I get those automatic phone messages from the pharmacy, I just hang up on them, right in the middle of the message. Now, so the first thing that we ask them to do is to think about how they would feel if they even tried to do the opposite of each of the behaviors in the second column. So let me give you an example of how this went. So I'm talking to this gentleman on the phone, and I said to him, okay, so that you've been very honest. You want to be compliant, but you don't take the drug every day, and when they run out, you don't refill them promptly, and so on. So tell me this. What would be your biggest worry if you did take the drug every day? And he said to me, if I don't take that drug every day, my biggest worry is I could have a stroke and die. Now, what would you think, even formally, about that answer, as an answer to my question? What? That's right. He did not answer the question I asked him, right? I asked him, what would be your biggest worry if you did take the drug every day? And he told me very quickly, and this happens all the time to us. He answered a completely different and opposite question. He said, if I don't take that drug every day, I worry I could have a stroke and die. This, for those of you who are interested in the brain, this is a perfect example of the way we have a tendency to walk down the familiar neural paths that we have long created. He knew what his worries were if he didn't take the drug, but I was asking him a completely different question. What his worry would be if he did take the drug. This was a path that had not yet actually been built in his brain. And I said to him, of course, I understand your biggest concern if you don't take the drug is you could have a stroke and die. Now, I'm actually asking you a little different question. Just stick with me and see if something comes up for you. Imagine yourself there. You're actually taking the drug every single day as prescribed. And then what I wanted to say was, what would your worst feeling be about that? But I never actually got that far. Because if you heard a tape recording of our interview, it would sound like this. So imagine yourself, you actually are taking this drug every single day as... If I have to take that damn drug every single day, he said, I'm going to feel like an old, sick man. I'm going to feel more like my father's generation who's in a nursing home, who I'm not visiting, by the way. Oof. I said, whoa, it sounds like you have a lot of strong feelings about that. You're damn right I do. He said, I'm 58 years old. I'm in the prime of my life. I'm not some guy who's got one foot in the grave. I'm not a half-dead guy who has to take a pill every day. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. He had no clue this is going to come out when we began our little conversation. He knew what he was worried about if he didn't take the drug. It had never occurred to him that there was a very, very smart reason why he was not taking the drug. I'm saying that he has a genuine commitment. Why wouldn't you to take your medications every day? So what's in the first column is actually real. He has this. It's important to him. But there's also this thing that has him, that he not have to take on what feels to him this horrible identity. He said, I'm in the prime of my life. I'm 58 years old. I'm not some guy, who's just at death's door. Once he saw this system, he said, as we were ending the call, well, this is kind of interesting. He said, you're showing me that in order that I not feel like an old sick man, I'm doing things that are likely to lead me to be a dead man. He got it. So once you have the X-ray, then what can you do with it, right? And the way that we get to that is by having people come to identify what are the big assumptions they hold, usually plural, big assumptions, that make, these commitments seem absolutely necessary. So just a shorthand version for this 58-year-old fellow is, I assume if I have to take a drug every day for the rest of my life, it means, that I'm an old person in decline. So we have developed, practices that help people create rich pictures in each one of these columns. They get a chance to see this system. They can see themselves with one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake, and they begin to see some kind of way by which they might do something other than dieting, just trying to change the behavior, some way that they might actively begin to alter the mindset itself that is producing the behavior. So I'm going to end in a moment and give you a chance to kind of let us in on the things that were going through your head while I was, doing all the talking up here. I'll leave you with one last little story, which is another way of naming, I think, kind of this phenomenon that we've gotten so fascinated with. And it's a story about a guy who, after work each day, he goes into a bar and he asks for 3 separate shot glasses of whiskey, and he proceeds to slowly drink each of them. And he does this every day after work, and finally the bartender says, I've been serving you like this, for months, and I know it's none of my business, but I just have to ask you, why do you do this? I mean, if you want a triple, we have bigger glasses. I mean, what? The guy said, I'll explain it to you. He said, I have 2 brothers. And for many years, we all lived together here in the city. At the end of work each day, we'd go off to a bar, and we'd each have a drink, and we'd sit around, tease each other, and talk about the day. And it was just a nice way that we stayed together. But modern life being what it is, their work has taken each of them far away. One lives in Atlanta now, one lives in London. We obviously can't get together at the end of work each day. So what we each do is at the end of work in our respective time zones, we go to our favorite bar or pub, and we each order the 3 separate glasses, and we just sit there and we kind of mull through the day, mull through what has happened, and we kind of unwind, and we think about each other. And it's just a nice way we stay together because we each know that the other 2 are doing it as well. So the bartender said, well, okay, I get it. Never heard anything like that before, but okay. And each day when the guy came in, the bartender would see him coming. He'd set out the 3 glasses, and he'd start pouring the 3 glasses. Everything was great. The one day he walked in, the bartender set out the 3 glasses, and the guy said to him, I just want 2 glasses today. So the bartender didn't say anything, but he just poured the 2 glasses. And the next day the guy came back, and he just wanted the 2 glasses again. And this time the bartender didn't say anything either, but he was aware that he wasn't asking because he was concerned if he did ask, what he might hear. But the guy kept coming back, and he kept ordering just the 2 glasses, and after a while it just got to be too much for the curious bartender. So finally he said, okay, I know this is none of my business again, but I've just got to ask you. I mean, you explained this whole, lovely thing to me, why you have the 3 glasses. Now you only have 2 glasses. What has happened? And the guy looked at the bartender and he said, I've quit drinking. So, self-deception. Self-deception is a very powerful force in human affairs. We think we're doing one thing, and we are. But there's also this other whole thing that we're doing. And that other whole thing, and being able to look at both things at the same time, is kind of this thing that has fascinated us. And hope you find it fascinating too, and thank you for the chance to talk with you about it.